Well, April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and many Canadians know about Parkinson's disease and that it's a neurodegenerative disorder. But there are a lot of myths and misconceptions out there. So we are bringing in two people who know a lot about Parkinson's disease this morning. Dr. Karen Lee is the CEO of Parkinson's Canada, and Chuck Bridges joins us as well. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease back in 2014. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the chat this morning, guys. So, Dr. Lee, I'm going to start with you. For the person who may not know a lot about Parkinson's, who hasn't been impacted by it personally or knows somebody who has it, what is Parkinson's disease?
So Parkinson's disease is a disease of the brain. Essentially, there's a part of the brain what is really helping with coordination and movement. It's really not working anymore. And so what happens is the person who's affected by Parkinson's will get tremors, rigidities, issues with coordinations. And that's what we visually see. But underlying, there's other symptoms that we call non-motor symptoms. So there's issue with depression, cognition, as well as speech. So these are things that are very, apparent in Parkinson's, visually, but also there's underlying issues.
Do we know approximately, doctor, how many Canadians are impacted or diagnosed with Parkinson's?
So every day, about 25 people are diagnosed with Parkinson's, and we have about 100,000 people living with Parkinson's here in Canada.
Wow, big number. And Chuck, you are one of those people living with Parkinson's. As I mentioned off the top, you were diagnosed back in 2014. Tell me a little bit about that diagnosis.
Well, the diagnosis came about because my doctor couldn't figure out why my hand was twitching. And so I started with this finger and just the index finger on my left hand and just started twitching. And then after a while, I started to veer to the left or veer to port when I was walking. And then we decided to check it out and see what it was. And about a year after the first symptoms, the obvious symptoms, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. Atypical, no known cause, but just the luck of the draw, I guess.
How have you been doing? That was 2014, so that's about 7 years ago now. How are you?
Well, I'm in my 8th year and doing fine. It's I don't want to overstate or understate the impact it's had, but it's I've got good medical attention. The doctors in Halifax are great, and we could use more neurologists, but that would be my only concern. But we have great doctors here. We've got the brain repair center here. And we also have good support through Parkinson's Canada with a good network of friends. Plus, we've also got together with other people who have Parkinson's as well. We call ourselves movers and shakers. And it's mostly retired executives and then CEOs and the VPs who get together periodically and just commiserate and also look for new ideas on how we can manage our lives and also to give encouragement and support for our spouses and families as well.
You know, Chuck, we talked off camera just before this. I know attitude goes a long way with this too, and I'm sure Dr. Lee can attest to that, but I know your attitude has just been tremendous. So I just wanted to mention that because I knew you weren't going to. But Dr. Lee, tell me the diagnosis itself, do we know who Parkinson's targets? Is this hereditary? Who is being diagnosed with Parkinson's?
So that's a really good question. Unfortunately, we still don't know what causes Parkinson's disease. There's a lot of hypotheses about the genetics. They're looking at it. There is some trends in some families, but not all families, as well as they're looking at the environmental factors. How is that playing into where you grew up? So is there pesticides involved? That's all still being researched. And that's why it's so important to support the research so that we can better understand the causes. And on top of that, we have this other layer, as Chuck talked about earlier, is diagnosis does take some time. We don't have a blood test or an x-ray that can say, hey, you have Parkinson's. It really is looking at everything in your medical history and needing a special neurologist, a movement disorder specialist, who can then look at everything and put it together to give you that diagnosis.
And the other big challenge is that Parkinson's is very individual. The symptoms that I have, the way it affects me, is not necessarily standard across the board. I have friends in Montreal who have different symptoms than I do, and friends in Halifax who have different symptoms than I do. So coming up with a treatment and a diagnosis is especially hard given the individuality of the disease.
We're just scratching the surface here this morning. This is Parkinson's Awareness Month. We are just giving you some very basics on Parkinson's here this morning. How can somebody find a little bit more information about Parkinson's?
I encourage people, if you want to know more about Parkinson's, to go to parkinson.ca. We have resources and information and groups such as Chuck talked about that really support one another and really bringing that resilience that this group such as Chuck has to come together. So thank you.
It's not just about me. The real heroes in this are the families and the caretakers who are being asked to carry on a big load. And they didn't necessarily know what was going to hit them, but those are the real heroes, and the people with the best attitudes are the caretakers and the folks who are supporting those of us who are living with Parkinson's. And key to this, we're living with it. It's not slowing us down. It's not going to kill us, but we're living with it. So you make adjustments, and there are days when you think, why me? But then the next question is, why not me? So it's on it goes.
Yeah, going to give you that final word there. A great way to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Chuck, and thank you to you, Dr.